Well, good morning, Rocky Hill Community Church. I'm excited you're able to join us here this morning. And before we get started, as you can see, some things are changing. Things are getting ready. You've probably heard in the news that there's a lot of stuff getting ready to reopen this next week. The state had allowed gyms and movie theaters and all kinds of other stuff and given guidance so that we can actually move forward. And I'm really excited to let you guys know that we will be meeting again. Should I tell you right now? Or should I wait till after the message? I think I'll wait till after the message. This last Thursday, we had such a great drive-through communion service, and thank you all for those that were able to participate. We had such a great time just being there for you as a church family and getting to know one another and delivering the Lord's Supper with everyone. It really just kind of symbolized us moving forward, and we've got things that we're excited to be a part of, where we can see our church coming back together and being a part of this community. So we've got a lot of stuff that we'd like to cover today, and it is kind of a longer message, but it's very fruitful, and it really has to do with a lot of what's going on in our world right now. So stay tuned to after the message when I can give you some more information about when we're meeting again, an actual day. But before then, Jordan, let's get our hearts ready with some worship.
Darkness closes in, Lord, still I Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna in the highest. And I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire. In darkest nights, you are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. Oh, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. Yes, you have. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. It's your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Yes, your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. 'Cause your goodness is running after, it's running after me. So my life, 'cause all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I'm able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Well, good morning, Rocky Hill Community Church. My name is David Welch, and I'm the lead pastor at Rocky Hill Community Church. And joining me this morning is Sheldon Logan and Police Chief John Hall. And we've got a very exciting conversation that needs to be had right now. If you've been turning on any TV, opening up any social media channel, opening any newspaper, or turning on any radio station, you know that something very important and very deep is going on in our nation and across the world. There are some things that need to be talked about. And that's why these men have joined me this morning to really have a conversation that includes compassion and reality. This isn't a time to sugarcoat anything, but to have an honest, real, and responsible, reasonable conversation about how the recent events affects our community and what we can do about it. So I want to start by saying this world is not what God created. Where we live today is not how he wanted it to turn out. In fact, it began as something that was beautiful and it was almost a utopia, and things happened. And the fundamental problem with what you see today began right there in the Garden of Eden. It was a choice to take a bite of a simple apple that has caused a fallen man, the sin of mankind, to propagate through all of history because of that choice. And now we stand today not with just a problematic heart, but a sinful heart, one that doesn't even know how to understand what good is without the grace of our King. So with that said, there was a period of time in God's creation with the Tower of Babel, and every nation, every group, every color came together to build this tower. And everybody was coming and they wanted to build this strong tower. And God said, I'm going to disperse these people and give them their own tongue. And I'm going to give them their own look and their own culture. And ever since then, we've been living in separate lives. Okay? But let me tell you, it doesn't end that way. In fact, if you go to Revelations chapter 7, verse 9, it says, after this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and were holding palm branches in their hands. See, one thing I want to share with you guys is that no matter what, in the end, as a believer, we are going to join a kingdom that is going to strip away all of these things that we're experiencing today on this earth. There is going to be no color. There's going to be no gender. There's going to be no difference between you and me. We are going to be a part of a kingdom of saints. We're going to be worshiping our Lord. But until then, we've got to process all this pain and this hurt and these hangups that are a result of sin in this world. And so I want to open up by talking with Sheldon this morning and see his opinion about some things. So again, thank you for joining us, Sheldon. I really appreciate you being here today. Why don't you introduce yourself?
My name's Sheldon Logan. Yeah. What else would you like to know?
Okay. I'm gonna come out the gate swinging. Okay.
Okay.
All right. How did you feel when you saw the videos that started all this?
Okay, so I'm gonna have to be really honest, because I am. I chose not to watch the video.
Okay.
I seen a little snippet of it, and as for how I was feeling, honestly, it was an injustice. It truly was. But it was an injustice on all different parts. You have officers right there watching another officer with his knee on this guy's neck. You have people videotaping it and not doing anything. So my feelings are, you could have put down your videotape and pushed the guy or did something, said something. Yeah. I'm at a loss for words, because here's the thing, that cop, that officer,
So there might be some editing, Chief.
I think
Yeah.
I look at Sheldon, he's frozen.
Yep. Sheldon, you froze.
okay, am I unfroze?
You're unfroze.
Right now,
Okay. So like I was saying, not because the chief's sitting here, my own belief from the get-go is bad cops, they're just bad officers, and they made bad choices. And It doesn't justify going out and trying to prove a point that you don't need to prove. You don't need to, all this chaos that's going on is just putting more people in harm's way. It's just making things unsafe. It's not showing kindness. It's not showing God's love. It's not showing who we are. I mean, I'm seeing friends who are at odds now because of certain beliefs. Social media is destroying our society. Just my opinion. My heart aches. My heart hurts for a lot of different reasons. My heart hurts for friends of mine who are sending me messages saying, "We love you," and "Are you okay?" Well, you've always loved me, and I am okay. And I'm sick of hearing, and I'm sure people might get upset with me, but you said we are raw and uncut. I'm sick of hearing Black Lives Matter. All lives matter. And my heart really hurts because it's like, I'm just tired of seeing people hurt. I'm tired of seeing my friends being torn apart because of differences, and it's okay to protest and it's okay to riot and it's our right. And I just want to love on people. I've never seen color since I was pretty.
Sheldon, it froze again. I don't know if you can hear us.
And we just need to take care of each other as a whole and not as individuals, not as, okay, he's black, he's white. It doesn't matter. We just need to love on each other because we need to love on each other.
Do you think
We need to just pick each other up because that's the right thing to do. We need to encourage our friends who are straying this way because of all this stuff going on, and bring them back and show them biblically, and just show them with love. That's just my tidbit.
do you think that there's merit to what's going on right now?
That, do I think there's merit? Yeah, that's a loaded question. I believe I'm not seeing the merit in all this. I mean, people want to protest and try to prove a point, but then you have an undertow and then it starts to riot. So I guess I'm not really seeing the merit in all of this. But that's just one person's opinion. Do I understand what some people are trying to do? I do. But it's still, for me, there could be a better way. There could be a better way to get your point across.
How do you think that this stuff that's going on right now affects our community?
It affects our community because our community is seeing what's going on. They're watching the news, then they're seeing stuff that's going on in Visalia. Someone who I hold in very high regards went to the thing in Visalia not as a spectator, not to be a part of, but to just see, just to like what's really going on, you know? So yeah, it is. It is affecting our community. Just
Because if we're going to be honest, I can tell you that the perception that I see about our town is that we are rich white people. That's what that's what everybody says we are. No matter how wrong they are, that's what they think. You go to Lindsay, you talk to him. Oh, you're from Exeter. You're one of the rich white people, right? They talk about that you go when we play sports. You go to Orosi, you go to Tulare, you go anywhere. That's what they talk about. Do you think that plays that image of our culture? Do you think that has will that be impacted with what's going on? Do you think there'll be talks about that because that's our image?
You froze for a second. So the last I heard was, do I think it plays an image, a role?
Does it play a role in how our community responds?
Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of people that I know, I'm seeing their hearts hurt. I'm literally seeing their hearts hurt. I'm I don't care how much money you have. If your heart's right, it's going to hurt and it's going to affect you. And people who I have spoken to about this, it's affecting them, but it's affecting their heart, whether they're rich or not. Yeah. And there's a few people here who like the stuff that's going on. To keep it real, it's like it's like, okay, yeah, they should be doing this. They should be rioting and, to each his own.
Do you think that in our community, there's something to be upset about here? Do you think that maybe there's some racist undertones within our community? Maybe some issues of injustice that we have right here?
That's another loaded question. I think there's racism everywhere. I don't even know if I should say this, but you remember the incident that happened at the school in the cart?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I remember getting phone calls of people saying, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, but uncut and real and raw, right? Nigger, if we see you at Shell, we're going to beat your so-and-so. And I got a few phone calls like that. And we'll meet you at Shell right now. And then my buddy Kevin Kirkman and Ben Weldon, they're like, okay, let's go to Shell and let's just deal with this. So it's like, there's the flip side of the coin. Have I experienced it firsthand? Oh yeah. Does it affect my life? No. And for me, it doesn't, because I've been called worse by better, and it's okay. And here's the crazy thing. I found out who one of the people is, and we're good. We're good. And this person is my friend, because God's love is much better than a resentment or hatred. Yeah. So is it in our community? Not as bad as it is in other places that I've seen. But yeah, but here's the thing too. I know a lot of Black people that are racist. A lot. I know a lot of Hispanics that are racist. I mean, old school Hispanic, a good friend of mine, like, yeah, you Mexican, you have to date a Mexican. That's what the dad said and grandpa. So racism everywhere. So in our community, a little bit, but
What do you think the answer could be? Not to, I mean, we're not going to solve all of the world's problems in this conversation, but what do you think is something that maybe our community could do to open their eyes to some of this stuff, and take a realistic look at the people around them and the person that they are in the mirror about what's going on with this? Is there something that we can do as a people, as a church, to take this moment to reflect on? What are some things we could do?
okay, so let's call a spade a spade. Okay, it's like this. What different is Chief Hall gonna do? He's that guy. That's his character that he portrays every day. When he sees you, he waves, hi, blah. Me, I love on people. I say hi. I want to be friendly. I'm that guy. You are a caring person. We just need to show that to everyone. And people need to, if they have something to say, they should just say it, and say it gracefully, and be of humble hearts and be of loving hearts, because we don't all have to agree on what we're seeing, but we all have to, because of where we are and who we are, we just got to show each other love, kindness, and humility, as a community. Because honestly, I think this bubble is probably one of the best bubbles in the United States. I don't think it's so much what we need to do different. I think it's what we need to express more and highlight more. And that one friend of ours who is kind of shy or doesn't want to show that, we just start sharpening that brother or sister up a little bit more. That's where I'm at. That's, for me, that's what I'm doing. That's just it. Say a kind word to someone that you don't even know. No strangers. Our community, don't sit with your clique. Get out of your comfort zone. Talk to that homeless lady at the Shell station. Just show love. That's it. Show love. Show compassion. That's what's going to help us. That's what's going to really motivate people. Most people. Some people are going to think we're crazy.
I want to give you a virtual hug now, Sheldon.
Okay. You too, Chief, because these arms are wide.
So, Chief, well, introduce yourself and then kind of tell me how has this affected you and maybe the department when you saw these officers in that video?
Sure. So my name's John Hall. I'm the chief of police for here at Exeter Police Department. I've been in law enforcement for more than 25 years, which makes me feel extremely old saying that. But I also teach at a couple of community colleges, and I also teach in the police academy. And some of the topics I teach include use of force. When that video came out, I can remember very clearly watching the video here in my office with several other officers, and we're watching it, and we all basically said the same thing. What in the heck are they doing? If we're being honest, the word wasn't heck, but the same sentiment was there. because we're watching this video and there's just so many things wrong about this and absolutely nothing right. Um, you know, just from police procedure, use of force levels, just everything. There was nothing right about this video. And it was one of those things where you're watching it and it absolutely baffles you. Because I think, anytime, in society we see something happen, there's that desire, you want to put logic to it, you want to put reason to it, you want to be able to understand why something happened. And we're watching this, and again, hey, this is our profession. We have all arrested people, we've all had to use force against somebody who didn't want to go to jail, who didn't want to be put in the police car. We've all had to take people to the ground. But we're watching this and none of this makes sense at all. So again, it was just absolutely shocking across the board on this. Mixture of disbelief, shock, just complete amazement, just bewilderment on what happened. As a profession and just as a human being, I have yet to hear anybody say anything that even tries to justify what was seen in that video. It's completely just off the charts. I have no idea what happened, why it happened. Completely unacceptable, and I think everybody is in agreement on that. As for everything Sheldon said, I know Sheldon. He and I have joked a few times, and I agree with everything he said. He's 100% on board or 100% correct with everything he has said. Do we see things like that happening here? In terms of the police use of force, no. We haven't seen anything like that here in our city. We do a lot of training in terms of use of force, in terms of de-escalation, verbal compliance, all of those things. We have a very diverse department. We are a pretty good representation of the demographics of our community. In terms of racism in our community, does it happen here? You and I were having this discussion a little bit before this started. Do I see it? No, I don't. Why? Nobody's going to do things like this in front of me because I'm not going to be on the receiving end of it. Plus, anybody that knows me knows I won't tolerate it. Do I think it happens here? Oh, absolutely. Why? Because I'm a firm believer, as soon as you say something can't happen here, you're setting yourself up for failure. Explain to me why it can't happen here. We have human beings here, right? Guess what? Human beings are fallible. Okay? Human beings are going to make mistakes. Human beings are going to be subject to prejudice, to bias, to everything else. So if it can happen in Minneapolis, if it can happen other places in the United States, we absolutely have to be aware of the fact it is very possible for it to happen here. And if we're cognizant of the fact that it can happen here, that allows us to take steps to prevent it from happening. Okay. Sheldon's comments about, hey, the best thing to do is just, be nice to each other, reach out to other people, say hi to them, talk to people. Again, I think that's the best, some of the best advice I've heard in a long time. Hell of a lot better than anything I've heard coming out of Washington, D.C. or Sacramento. Okay. My God, it's so simple. Hey, how come we can't just be nice to each other? Again, that is just, I remember my mom saying that when, I was but a wee little lad causing all kinds of trouble. Okay. Just be nice to everybody. Some of the simplest advice ever. But I think if we could actually do that, that would make such a difference in the world.
Chief, when one of the things that this nation's been battling with for a long time has been trust with mankind, trust with their neighbors, trust with people, and trust with their police force across the nation. There's been issues with that. And I know that this incident with George Floyd has really ripped open that wound of trust in our law enforcement. Not for everybody, but for some. how do you think that our police force can help build that trust with our community?
What I would encourage people is don't necessarily believe everything you see on the media. Okay. The media, there was a point in time when the media's primary job was to inform. Sadly, it seems like their primary job now is to sell ad space or to generate revenue for advertisements. If you really want to build trust with your local law enforcement agency, if your local law enforcement agency really wants to build trust with the community, again, goes right back to what Sheldon says. Get out and talk to everybody. Okay. I don't care how much stuff I put on Facebook, how much stuff I put out on social media. Sooner or later, I'll learn how to tweet, and who knows, maybe I'll put a tweet out. Okay. But that's not going to make a difference. Okay. Because if I could put all that stuff out, Sheldon can read it. You can read it. Every member of our community can read it. All you're reading is something off of a digital device. Okay. Tell me how this thing all of a sudden is going to make you trust me more. Okay. You really want to build trust? Meet me down at the coffee shop, have a cup of coffee. Let's talk about things. Come out to National Night Out. Let's chat. I'll walk across the street over to the school, chat with Sheldon, and we'll stand out in front and talk about things. Okay. That's how you build that trust. The trust isn't going to come from the media. It's not going to come from social media. It's going to come from honest to God human interaction. I've seen a whole lot of politicians on television. I don't trust any of them. Okay. You want me to trust you? Meet me face to face. Let's talk. Let's interact. Okay. Show me your character. Show me what you've done. We encourage people to, hey, talk to our officers. Okay. Come to National Night Out. Let's talk about things. You want to know about our policies? Ask us. All of our policies are on the web. We put every policy for the Exeter Police Department on the city's webpage. You got a question? It's right there for you to look at it. You got a question? Come ask me. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. I think trust is also one of those things. It's not just about, frankly, the police department and the community, but it's also about members of the community trusting each other. Mm-hmm. Okay. As a whole, unfortunately, it seems like we have just fragmented. We've got our little cliques. There's those little cliques. We've kind of just gotten away from just getting out and talking to each other. And, hey, we don't have to agree on everything. We can disagree. I used to love having arguments with my friends just to have arguments. Okay, just to have fun with it. But we were still friends about it. And I think that's one of the things that honestly was really lost is it seems like it's as a society, we've gotten to the point of you either have to agree with me or I can't be friends with you. And I've got to despise you for everything. Mm-hmm. Why? Why can't we still be friends and just have a differing of opinion on things? And again, I think it all comes back to just getting out, communicating with each other, drinking coffee, having conversations, and accepting the fact that people have a differing opinion than you do.
Okay. So with when you brought up use of force, there are a lot of people in the nation right now talking about defunding the police forces. There's a lot of talk about review of certain, like banning certain procedures in use of force or detainment. Have you seen any of these? And if so, what do you think about them?
Yes, I've seen a lot of them. Like everybody, I've watched the media, watched the news. We've had stuff coming into the department of the city. I think there's, again, a variety of things. Some of it, I think there's good intent, maybe not based off of good knowledge. Okay. I think there's also other stuff where you have people looking to push an agenda. Here's the thing that I see when it comes to defunding police departments. Okay. So if you think there's a problem with your police department, okay, whatever police department is, you think there's a problem there. Do you think you're going to solve the problem by taking money away and taking resources away from that department, thus impacting how that department's going to be able to serve that community? Is that really going to make it better? Or would the smarter thing be is, hey, if I've got a problem with this department and the way things are being done, first off, maybe I need to educate myself and see how they do things, what their policies are, what their training is. And if I really want to make an improvement, let's talk about training. Okay. Take police department out of it. Let's use the same scenario, but apply it to the schools. Hey, you know what? I don't like what the school is doing. I'm going to take away 20% of their funding. What's going to happen to our education system? What's going to happen to our schools? What's going to happen to the students? Okay. Wouldn't the smarter thing be, hey, hold on, wait a minute. If I don't like what the school's doing, let's look at their policies. Let's look at what they're doing and see, do we need to change something? Do we need to change, the training aspects of it? Do we need to change our hiring aspects? So that's what I would say in terms of the whole defunding of police departments. Because once we start defunding police departments, if we look at the funding aspects of police departments, the bulk of the budget is all about personnel. So when you start talking about cutting funding, what you're really talking about is eliminating police officer positions. Okay. Well, some of the neighborhoods that I see that have the greatest need officers. They need law enforcement. Okay. Now, I'm not saying they don't need other programs. Okay. Understand, law enforcement is just is a component. Okay. They need other things. But if we eliminate law enforcement from a neighborhood, what's going to happen to that neighborhood? Okay. So that's what I would say in terms of the defunding. As for the banning of certain procedures, certain use of force options, again, what I would say is do your research. Let's look at it first. Okay. Let's talk about use of force. Let's talk about, and again, let's have an honest discussion about use of force. What procedures should be banned? What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? Okay. When we've got Supreme Court cases that talk about the reasonable use of force, I'll use the topic of de-escalation, for example, because that's one of those buzzwords that you see being thrown around a lot in the media is, hey, we want departments to use de-escalation. Guess what? We want it too. Everybody wants it. Okay? The problem with de-escalation is in order for it to work, everybody has to want it to happen. If that person who is drunk, if that person is high on drugs, that person has mental health issues, that person who is in an extreme emotional state doesn't want de-escalation to work, it's probably not going to work. I think if we want to have a topic about or a discussion about use of force, it needs to be an honest discussion, and we need to get away from the idealistic world of Hollywood, the idealistic world of television, and let's be honest about it. Okay, everybody I hear talk about use of force and wanting to change things, they've never had to try to wrestle somebody into handcuffs who didn't want to be put in handcuffs. And everybody always thinks about, well, size makes a difference. I've been involved in fights with 5'5" females that probably weighed $105 soaking wet. They didn't want to get put in handcuffs, and it was a fight to get them into handcuffs. Okay. And I think, again, we have to have that real.
Is that recorded, Chief? Because I'd watch that. It's just, every officer I know, when we hire officers, we put them through a background process. We put them through a psychological screening.
we don't want cops that want to use force. I have never seen an officer who starts his shift going, man, you know what? I hope today I get to go use force on somebody. Okay. What do we prefer? Just, hey, go in the handcuffs, get in the back of the car. Man, life is good. Why? Because you don't get hurt. I don't get hurt. My uniform doesn't get torn up. Okay. Uniforms are expensive. Okay. The report is simple. I showed up, I talked to the person, they were arrested, they went to jail. Reports are real simple. Okay. Everybody would prefer that force doesn't have to be used. But unfortunately, that's just a reality of law enforcement. If having to use force wasn't a reality, why are we giving our officers firearms, batons, tasers, pepper spray, bulletproof vests? When we look at some of the events that have happened over the years and we see how officers have been, assaulted and killed, okay, we can see, hey, the world's not sunshine and lollipops out there. Force, unfortunately, is a very real part of law enforcement. But we do have to work on making sure that that force that is used is reasonable, is within policy, okay, and is within the acceptance of the community. But we have to have we have to have a realistic discussion, and people have to have a realistic understanding of how force is actually used in the real world.
Okay, I got one question for both of you, and you guys can choose who answers first. As a Christian, and as a Christian man, a Christian husband, a Christian father, a Christian holding a biblical role within Scripture, how do you feel like God is calling you to respond right now?
Sheldon, that's a simple question, man. I'm going to let you take that one first.
Yeah. So listen, for me, it's just like this for me. My favorite verse, Isaiah 61, for the Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me. I just want to spread the good news. I just want to be that example. I want to be that guy who I am loving on people. I am being kind. I am being honest. I have friends where I come from in Fresno that I've known all my life, I've grew up with, that don't even really want to talk to me right now because I told them to stop playing the black card and start playing God's card. So it's simple. That's for me, that's it. I just want to spread the good news. I just want to be that example to my friends, to my kids, to my nieces and nephews, to my coworkers. I just want to stand in the gap. So,
Chief?
For me, it kind of goes back when I was in high school, looking at what was I going to do after high school. At that point in time, for me, my calling was to go in the military. I thought serving my country was what was best for me and best for everybody else. That was the best way I can make the difference. So 17, I joined the military. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and I did 8 years in the military. I came out, went to the academy, been a police officer. And for me, my calling is public service, making a difference in how can we make other people's lives better. We have, I will readily tell you, I'm a firm believer, quite frankly, there's evil in the world. Okay. Yes, we have bad people doing bad things. Okay. For a variety of reasons, but honestly, we also just have flat out evil that is out there. And I'm a believer that law enforcement is a profession. It is a calling to help quell that evil, to protect those who can't protect themselves. And for me, that's how I go about my day-to-day business. That's what I believe is what I was asked to do. And that's how I answer that call.
So I want to say thank you to all of you who were able to join us here this morning, and Chief Hall as well as Sheldon. So how do we wrap all of this up? Well, very quickly, I just want to share one thing with you. There was somebody who went up to Christ, who went up to Jesus, and he said, hey, what do I need to do in order to get into heaven? Jesus said, well, first of all, you need to learn how to love the Lord God with all your heart, your mind, your strength, your soul, your everything. And the second is to learn to love your neighbor as yourself. He said, okay, got it. Who's my neighbor? Well, Jesus responded with this story. So there was once a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, and on his way, he was attacked by some robbers. They took his clothes and they beat him up, and they left him there half dead. Now, luckily, there was some people that were walking by, and the first one was a priest, and he saw this person that was lying on the side of the road. But unfortunately, he looked at him and he said, I don't want to get near that. I see that there's a problem, but I don't want to address that. And he went to the other side of the road and he kept walking. Another person had seen the individual left there on the side of the road, and he saw him. He was a Levite, and he saw it and he's like, I don't know if I want to get close to that. I see that there's a problem, but I'm just going to turn this away. But then there was a third person. The third man was a Samaritan. Now, if you know anything about the history between the Jews and the Samaritans, it was not a good relationship. In fact, they really did not like each other. You want to talk about racism? Look up the stories between the Jews and the Samaritans. Now, when this man was walking down the road, the Samaritan man, he saw the Jew hurt. He saw the Jew in pain. He saw the Jew in a place of being left for dead. And instead of turning the other cheek, instead of turning to the other side of the road, he turned towards him and started to clean his wounds. He started to disinfect all the problems in his life. He started to address the issues. He put his idea of humanity, of love, into action. He took that man and he put him onto his donkey and he took him over to an inn, and he said to the innkeeper, hey, I want you to take great care of this guy. If it costs more than these two pieces of silver, put it on my tab and I'll be back to pay you some more. Jesus then looked at that young man who asked him what it took to get into heaven, and he said, well, what do you think now? Which one do you think was the neighbor? And the guy goes, well, of course, it was the one that took the pity on him. It was the Samaritan. Jesus said, no, go and do the same. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, just thank you so much for this opportunity to hear different views on what's going on in our world, especially how much it affects our community here. It's one thing to see things on the news and on social media, but it's another to see it right here with people in our homes, people at our workplace, people in our family. Lord, I hope that this time blessed other people as they heard the hearts of men who love you. And may this day be just a spark of something new in someone's heart, to do something different, to be something different, to want to make a difference in this world. Lord, I ask for those that are listening to this message this morning, if they don't know how to even take that first step, Lord, I ask that you give them the wisdom on what it means to take a step towards justice. Lord, I ask for your healing hand on our lives today. There are people that are in pain, and I ask for healing. There are people that are feeling anxious and worried, and I ask for peace. Lord, there are people that are waiting paycheck to paycheck, and I ask for blessing in their lives. Lord, you are the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and you said we have not because we ask not. And today I'm asking for all of your blessing on this community. Give us the strength and the courage in order to step out as ambassadors of your name, to share the love that you have shown us. Pray this in your Son's great name, Jesus Christ. Amen. And now for the announcement that I've been excited to share with you all. We're going to be opening our doors back on the June 28th. Now, with everybody getting their guidance from the CDC and the state allowing all kinds of progression into these various phases, we're excited to be a part of that process. And as you can see, we are trying to make some changes in order to make the place a more safe and secure and fun environment in order to express our worship to our King. So if you'd like to join us, make sure you like or subscribe to our channels so that you can have more information about when our service times are going to be on June 28th. And if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to call me, and my number will be down in the information down below. Fill out that keeping in touch card. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to, of course, pray for each and every one of you in this time. So thank you for joining us this morning, and I look forward to seeing you soon.